Hello everybody and welcome along once again to another edition of the Rebel Wide Ball. And I suppose where else should we start only the Cork Premier Senior Hurling Final, down for decision 4 o'clock next Sunday. And of course it's between, I was going to say old rivals, but I mean it was old rivals if you go back in history, the Bears and the Rockies. I think in all they have met in something like 11 county finals, with the Bears slightly ahead in that 6-5 in that's just county finals themselves. Blackrock, who have their 33 titles, the last one in 2020, whereas for St. Finn Bears they won their 25th and last title way back in 1993. So in terms of modern day rivalry, it really hasn't been there. You know, other clubs have come in and won Cork County Championships, but if we go back to the times when they were real rivals, that time in the 70s and 80s, when Cork were regular winners of all Irelands as well, because there were so many county players on both teams, clashes between these two in a county final was actually referred to the Little All Ireland. Now that has changed beyond all belief. I remember way back in 1979, I think at the time it was Moontour in a school in Navan in County Meath. The principal was a Donegal man, and there was another Galway, former Galway player who was teaching in the school, and they were so intrigued by this, and they were so interested. I brought them to Cork one weekend for that final in 1979. No, I mean, there was no problem getting back. It was a bit of a struggle, but we did make it. Prior to the ringing of the first bell, I think in the Monday morning. But when you were hanging around the principal, you couldn't get away with anything those days. Anyway, that was back then, but now we're in modern times, and of course there was massive attendance at those matches, and it's going to be a little interesting as to what the attendance will be next Sunday. You know, the county board are talking maybe between 18 and 20,000. I think last year you had between the Glen and Middleton 13, just slightly over 13,500, and then back in 2017 between Blackrock and Imokilly, the attendance that day was 16,226. But that programme also featured the replay of a Premier Senior Football final between the Bears and Nemo. But like, things have changed, and you know, like, for a start, if back in the day you had to go to see the match, or else wait maybe to hear a report of it, read a report the following day. Whereas now it's live on radio, it's live streamed, and you know, you've on the match reports almost immediately. So, you know, it's a hugely different environment. I don't have to tell you that, but it will be, and it promises to be a really good game of hurling. These are the two best club sides in the county at this moment in time. And both of them had comprehensive victories over their respective semi-final opponents. The Bears, you know, it's not too long ago when they were in relegation finals, but success at underage level has brought a new breed of player into the Bears team. Not a new breed of player, just a couple of new hurlers have come in, and they have augmented the players that have been there for quite a while. You know, fellas like Jamie Burns, Damien Callahan and Ben O'Connor will be back there in defence. Ben O'Connor, of course, who is now, I think, on a contract to Munster Rugby. Then you have William Buckley, Ethan Toomey, two young players, Conor Callahan, who was, I think, having the season of his life. You know, they're around the middle third, and all of the three of those are able to score. And of course, you have Brian Hayes and Ben Cunningham. And it will probably, obviously it always comes down to it, you know, how the defenders can man these series forwards. For Blackrock then, fellas like Stephen Murphy, Alan O'Callaghan, one of the footballers who plays centre back in both teams, and Niall Cashman and Daniel Meany, another one of the St. Michael's footballers. And they're really potent up front. They were the last eight least, with Robbie Cotter, who's outstanding, Alan Connolly and Ty DC. Trying to predict how this is going to go is obviously, for a mind far better than this one. But if I was to make a call on it, I think I'd have to say like that I'd have a slight fancy for maybe St. Finn Bears. They're on a real roll. But look, this Blackrock team, they are a fabulous team as well, no doubt in the world about that. Louis Mulqueen has come in and maybe given them a fresh impetus. So, look, if you're interested in hurling and interested in a sporting contest, I'd encourage you to go along to that one next Sunday. And the curtain raiser to that match at 2 o'clock is going to be the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship final between Castlemartyr and Enniscarra. And now I suppose at the start of the year, if you were to predict that these two would get there, you'd have got seriously long odds. Enniscarra, there was nothing major happening in the club. They were, I don't know how you describe Enniscarra insofar as they're able to operate at this. If you were into an educational analogy, you'd say they're a good, solid, ordinary level student, but maybe lacking a little bit for the higher level class. And I wish to God I hadn't said that now. But they got through the season, and they were in the same group as Bandon, Valley Rovers, and Youghal. Hammered Bandon and hammered Youghal. They drew with Valley Rovers. A huge part of their play this year has been the performance of Shawnee O'Donoghue, their Cork player, who will operate in the forwards or midfield. And in the games they've won, and then in the semi-final as well against Ballinhassig, he was the main man. And it will be interesting to know how Castlemartyr will keep an eye on him. Will they use their star centre back here on Joyce? So that'll be an interesting one. But it's not a one-man side, anything like that. You fellas like Brian O'Mahony, Liam Ryan, a very good defender, Shane O'Mahony, Colm Casey, who's been around a long number of time and will able to get important goals, as will Dan O'Connell, Owen McCarthy, an outstanding free taker as well. No, that's their history. Well, no, it's not their history, but their history could be, in terms of county finals, could be written on a very, very small stamp. They've only won, I think, one adult county championship in their entire existence, and that was back in 1975 when they beat Ballymartle in the junior championship. Now, back then to win the junior championship, you did play in the second grade of hurling in Cork, a guy called Tomas Ryan. Interestingly, I think he's from Dripsy, who was their captain. He played for Cork for a number of years, I think from around 1968 to 72. He won an All-Ireland with Cork back when they beat Wexford in 1970. Anyway, that's that. They lost 2 intermediate finals in 1991 and 2003. But as I say, they haven't, they've been operating at this grade to be massive for them if they could win. Now, again, like so many clubs, just because they don't win county championships, that doesn't mean for one moment they're not doing their job in terms of the provision of Gaelic games for the young people and more in their area in Mid-Cork. But for the men of Castlemartyr, last week we spoke about them. They're in the southern half of this famous Imogilly parish, separated by the Kilta River from their near neighbours Dungorney, who had an awesome win last Sunday against Clodove. It didn't really see that coming, but it did come, and what a homecoming and what an event it was. And they're moving up the ranking, but for Castlemartyr the last number of years have been outstanding since they won the junior in Cork. I think it was in 2014. Then they won what was called the lower intermediate grade in 2020, followed up by into the intermediate A in 2021. So they're incredibly they're appearing in 3 county finals in a row and going for 3 victories in a row. They only lost one match, and that was against Kilworth, beating Ballincollig and Carrigaline. And they also had a good win over Castlelyons in the semi-final. I mentioned Kieran Joyce, who fellas like Dara Morton, Jamie Stack, Joe Stack, Mickey Kelly are up there, and you have the Lawton brothers and the Lawton cousins. Seamus Lawton being, it's a great name down that neck of the woods, is their coach. So we've been told that this is going to be Castlemartyr's day, but sure, you never know. Isn't that the absolute beauty of it? All of these teams are going to be there in county final action. You could make cases for each of them, and you could be arguing when the cows come home, but they'll get out there on the pitch, and 1 or 2 things can happen. A quick switch of a player into the full forward line, and he's 2 points got before somebody cop on, or maybe what's more, the ball in the back of the net. On Saturday evening we've got the Premier Junior Hurling, and this is, I told you about this competition before, like the teams in it are delighted that it's there, that they weren't domiciled back to the divisions, if you wish. And it's again an unusual pairing between Ballygiblin and Tracton. Ballygiblin won the county junior last year, won the Munster And this is the first time that they had real success. You know, they're up in North Cork, Mitchelstown is the kind of football side of it, if you like. And they went all the way to the All-Ireland final, lost to Mooncoin by a single point. And this year, they in this campaign, like, they have been outstanding, winning all their matches against Dripsy, Bellygavan, Arrogany and Rangers, and then in the semi-final against Russell Rovers, they had a 2-point win. Look, their players are much better known, I suppose, at this stage than Tracton. You know, Fionn Herald, he's there. I think is he their captain, or he's their fullback anyway, outstanding player. Mark Keane and Michael Lewis. Then you have young players like, well, Ryan Donegan, Shane Beston, an outstanding footballer, Cathal O'Mahony, the Cork player, and Shawnee O'Sullivan, or Shawnee Goals, as he was called last year. They will be the slight favourites against Tracton. No, the Tracton side of the coin, in 2010, prior to the County Intermediate Championship final, they were an hour away from playing the top level of hurling. No, they don't play a lot of that down there in the football. They were an hour away. That's 12 years ago. And since then, it's fair to say, like, that they have been in sort of a downward spiral. But they've been getting there this year, winning. They lost to Russell Rovers, but they won the other two group games against Catherines and Glen Rovers, and then they had that massive win by a single point over Kilbrittain, the win to extra time, and what a match that was level on 14 occasions. Tommy Guinness, Keith Webb, Graham Webb, fellas like Daniel O'Flaherty and John Good, Michael O'Sullivan, who is probably moving towards the end of his career, and then you have the uncle and the nephew. The uncle being none other than Ronan Walsh, who got that incredible goal in the semi-final, and his nephew David Byrne that actually passed it to him. Like, I saw Tracton play, and I saw what winning a semi-final meant to them. Like, if they win this thing, I don't know how you would control them, but anyway, look, they're a great club as well, and it will be an outstanding occasion. So they're three wonderful county finals. They're going to be the last of the hurling ones for a while. We'll have the junior A hurling later on in the year. Next weekend and the weekend after, then we'll be talking about football. So in the next competition that we're going to talk about is the junior football quarter-finals. Now, this is between the winners of the 8 divisions, and of course this is so different this year because the 8 teams competing are going to be playing in the higher grade next year regardless of what happens here. But obviously there's a county final, there's a county championship at stake, and for the winners it's going to be a seriously incredible occasion. Now on Saturday, the four quarter-finals, my apologies, they're all on at 4 o'clock, and you have Kilmurray versus St. James's in Enniskeane. Of course, St. James's is that team in West Cork that are I won't say fight against the odds, but certainly won against the odds this year again to go with their 2019 victory. I still think that Kilmurray are a better team than them, or a slightly better team than them. Won't say much now. The next quarter-final is between Orden, who've yet to play a game in this year's championship, and they'll be glad to be out of the Beara division, so that they'll be playing in the Premier Junior Championship, and they'll also be playing league football and all-county league football next year. But they're going to play Kinsale, and Kinsale are another team that are absolutely ecstatic to be back playing in the county competitions. It'll be a good game between them in Dunmanway. I'm not too sure. Like, Orden have won the Junior B in Beara last year. I think they disappointed a little bit, so it's going to be an interesting match. And remember, Kinsale were the team that were relegated from the county, but they had a comprehensive win over Ballinasig in the South East final. So honestly, I don't know who's going. Do I know who's going to win any of them? I don't. But anyway, Cullen and Cove in Mourneabbey. Now, Cove, who, you know, were beaten the hurling last weekend. They were going for a double down in East Cork, and they won the football after I don't know how many years, a lot of years anyway. But I think a number of those players mightn't be around. Maybe one or two of them gone away. So that might give Cullen, I'm not saying they needed that to give them a chance, but that just might swing it in their favour. And the final game in the junior football is between St. Michael's, the great club in the city, who are also in the Senior A football final, making up the numbers against John Finton Daly in a couple of weeks' time. No, we'll calm after that one. They're playing Buttevant in Ratpeak, and then, Buttevant, it's their first team, obviously, so I think that maybe they might have a slight advantage in that. So they're those 4 games. In the divisions, you're talking about the unfinished Divisional Junior Hurling Championships, and in Avondhu on Sunday at 2 o'clock you have the Junior A Hurling Final, that taking place in Mallow. Obviously it is, they have to play. I'm not too sure that they had to play it now because the county board have moved deadlines, and but anyway they're going to be clashing with the county final, not at the same time but more or less it's on the same day. But it's an unusual pairing in that you've got Kilshannig and they're playing Liscarroll, Churchtown Gales. None of these 2 clubs have won at this competition in the past, and for Kilshannig it's another great season because their footballers are going to be playing the following week in the Intermediate A Football County Final. Of course that's why you couldn't be played the following week, and if we'd brain we'd be absolutely dangerous. Anyway, so that's that one. Probably Kilshannig maybe would be fancied there. And then the following week we've got the Muskerry Junior Hurling Championship. That's fixed for Saturday week in Ballyanley between 2 first teams, which is good to see, between Grenagh and Ballinora. And in West Cork they're at semi-final stage, and they'll be played on Friday night. It's Ballinascarthy versus Dawneys. And that game is going on in Barry Road, 7:45, obviously under lights. And then at 2 o'clock on Saturday you have Clonakilty playing Newcestown in Ahiole, and the final of that was going to be played on Tuesday night, but because they got an extension it's now going on the following weekend. Obviously if you look at the names there, like the Dawneys and Clonakilty would be more football clubs. It's Newcestown's second team, and one day, they've had a disappointing season, I suppose, by their high standards. They'd love to win that championship, but anyway, that's the situation, if you like, in the divisions. Moving on to soccer, and my God, what an incredible night Tuesday night was in the playoff game in Hamlin Park when Ireland beat Scotland 1-0, and of course you're well aware of everything that's associated with this now. It means that Ireland are going to the World Cup for the first time in their history, and that's in Australia and New Zealand. It kicks off on July 20th and the final on the 20th of August. Now, whether Ireland get to the final or not is immaterial at this stage. It's the fact that they qualified, the manner in which they qualified, and what it has done and what it will do in terms of raising the profile of ladies soccer, girls soccer, but also girls in sport. And for the winner, the way it came from a Donegal girl after the tough week they've had in Donegal. My God, does it bear thinking about. But Amber Barrett, when she had the goal, I think it's maybe in the 70-something minute, and the pass was supplied to her by a girl from Knocknaheeny, Denise O'Sullivan, and what a great pass it was, and what a wonderful goal. And in the aftermath of that game, then the way that she paid tribute to the 10 innocent souls that lost their lives last Friday. It was a really poignant moment, and I suppose I'm not saying you couldn't script it, but in the aftermath of the awfulness of the situation for a girl from Lifford in County Donegal who knew this place like the back of her hand, grandparents from there, it was just incredible. Then the crack that started when somebody recorded a song with the players singing up one of these Republican songs, I suppose. Anyway, we may come back to that. We may come back to that in a minute. Courtney Brosnan was outstanding, and she's the goalkeeper. That she's an American, but she has her Irish roots. I have to get this bit in. Roscommon and Cundy Kiri. She was outstanding. Probably, I suppose, the player of the match. But one of the players that caught my eye was Megan Campbell. I just couldn't believe the length of the throw balls. I mean, she threw one of them into the net. If anybody got a touch on it, it was an important goal. It reminded me so much of Rory the Lap from another era. But it was outstanding. And her grandfather some of you that are into traditional music, the Dubliners, oh my God, they'd be proud of, they'd be the singing that went on. Eamon Campbell. But anyway, to mention the song anyway, they were singing this Republican song. Somebody, I suppose, foolishly taped it, and it got out into as it does, and the FAI and all of them were forced to apologise. But you know, the crack was that some tulip on Sky, when they were talking to one of the Irish players, asked them, would it be appropriate now to have more education around this area for a fella like him to ask that question, and the complete lack of anything to do with education in England about the Irish situation. It sometimes the best thing that ever happened, they asked it, because any little bit of grief that's singing of that song, and I'm not condoning it or anything like that, but for the love of God, it quickly unified the whole lot of us behind this Irish team. And if that was the only mistake anybody made last Tuesday night, and at this stage I'm nearly saying, was it a mistake at all? But anyway, it was absolutely incredible, and it brought great joy to everybody, as anything to do with an Irish team does. But I don't know, like, could you script that, and the fact the relationship then between Scotland and Donegal, and like, I often think about Donegal, there's a kind of a cut-off county up there, and like, for people that understand it, like, there's the people from Donegal that went over to Scotland to work on this, come back, and there's a huge tie up there. And I know that even money came in from Glasgow Celtic for the tragedy there. So for a Donegal girl from Milford to score that winner the week that was in it, that will live a long time for a lot of people. Anyway, moving on then to the Premier League. For those of you that get your real fix out of all that, on Saturday we've Spurs playing Everton, and of course Everton probably recovering from that defeat by Manchester United on Sunday evening. But Spurs, this happens to them. They lose a few, they win a few. They defeat Brighton, then they win on a Wednesday night against Eintracht Frankfurt in the European Championship. Next game, Wolves and Nottingham Forest, and for our Nottingham Forest friends, what goes on in that club is unbelievable. After buying in all these players, the manager was under a bit of pressure, but instead of firing the manager, I believe they fired a couple of executives that bought the players. When Forest won this, practically all their players were on loan, so they ended up and they had to buy a team more or less. Anyway, on Sunday you have Aston Villa taking on Chelsea, and since Graham Potter took over between the Premier League and the Champions League, I think I called the European Championship earlier on, they've won 4 out of 5, and they're moving up the table nicely for them. Then you have Leeds and Arsenal, and of course Arsenal, who were just a point ahead of Manchester City, but they did lay down a marker with their 3-2 win against Liverpool. Manchester United take on Newcastle, and we mentioned the Everton game and Ronaldo getting his 700th goal in that one. Liverpool and Man City is the big game on Sunday, and Man City, who showed a little bit of feet of clay, if you wish, when they were held to a 0-0 draw by FC Copenhagen on was it Tuesday night, and then Liverpool, who recovered from their Arsenal defeat with a 7-1 defeat of Rangers, and maybe in light of everything, that was probably a good result as well. The League of Ireland, Division 1, Cork City, a 0-0 draw last week against Waterford before a huge crowd in Turner's Cross meant they were crowned Division 1 champions. The fact that Galway were beaten as well, I don't know what's after happening to them. John Coffey will definitely be disappointed. But Cork City played their second last game on this Friday night when they travelled to Athlone, and then they're at home to Bray for the presentation of the trophy, I would imagine, at their home ground next week. For Cove, their horrific season comes to an end this weekend when they travel away to play Bray. It certainly has been a poor season for the Island club. To finish, well, no, I almost forgot. Very important games in Camogie, and after last weekend, the senior Camogie decided will be And it will be an interesting one between Shandoon and SARS. Two very recent winners. Shandoon, as you remember it last year, and I think SARS won it in 2019. The intermediate final will be another interesting one between Ahabullock and Blackrock, and of course Blackrock will have players. It's a good time down there that have players involved with Shandoon as well, and when you take into account their senior hurling team and I presume there's a tie-up between St. Michael's as well. The junior A semi-finals take place Sunday at Brinny at 1 o'clock. It's Ballinhassig versus Castlelyons. Fancy Ballinhassig in that one. And at 4 o'clock, Tracton, if they have recovered from the exploits of their men's team on Saturday evening. And by the way, that game between Ballygibble and Tracton, whether I mentioned that game goes on in Porkykeefe at Saturday at 5 o'clock. But anyway, it's Tracton versus Ballinora in that junior A semi-final. The two junior B semi-finals are also done for decision this weekend. On Saturday in Castlemarty, you have Ahada playing in Ascara's second team, so I'd imagine Ahada win that one, and Bishopstown take on Youghal and Ballinacurra on Sunday. So until we meet again, take care of whatever sport, whatever team you follow. Hope that they win for you. Most important thing, stay around until the next time.